Hey, this is Jason Leonard, and you're listening to the Matt Balaker podcast.
Hello, fine people out there tuning into the Matt Balaker podcast. And gosh, we've been doing this for over a year now. And I think what I'm most proud of is the hair quality on so many of our guests. And the one today continues that fine tradition. He's got some beautiful locks. You got to check him out. So if you're listening to this, great, but also tune in to the YouTube version for your own viewing pleasure, because the gentleman joining us today is a comedy festival veteran, a columnist, producer, and founder of Lafayette Comedy. Please welcome Jason Leonard to the show. How you doing, Jason?
I'm doing good. How you doing, Matt?
I'm doing well. In preparation for your appearance, I was going through some old emails, and we've been in touch for, over 4 years.
Yeah.
And then that whole the pandemic kind of cock-blocked our plans. But here we are.
Luckily, we're the only ones affected by that in the whole world. So
yeah. It is you and me, and I guess my cats and your dogs.
That's
pretty much it. There are some news stories here or there, but I think it just makes it all the sweeter that we're finally connecting, and we got a lot to talk about comedically and otherwise. But for people out there who are visiting Louisiana, a lot of people go there for a couple of days and inevitably say, what should I eat? What food's the best? A lot of people, I want you to steer them away from Bourbon Street. I know you're not in New Orleans, but what suggestions do you have, Jason, as someone who lives in the fine state of Louisiana?
Only go to Bourbon Street. No. No,
Thank you for that.
Yeah. Who are you talking about? No, it's weird, man. It's a weird little state. I mean, you hit New Orleans. It's got so much history, whatever. Walk adjacent to Bourbon Street, but there's so much of New Orleans, but do New Orleans thing. You can Google enough tourist things, but branch out a little bit. So we're 2 hours west of New Orleans. We're like Cajun country. This is hardcore Cajun country where boudin's made. I live in the boudin capital of the world, and airboats and swamps and alligators, and almost got Robert Kelly attacked by an alligator this weekend. So, it just, whatever. If you want to see a dead possum or an alligator, this is where to come. So
I think the Lafayette Board of Tourism is going to hire you. If you want to see a dead possum or an alligator, this is the place to go. Thank you, Jason.
That's how you know you're close to my house. When you see the dead possum, turn right, and then you're there.
Turn right on the possum carcass.
Yeah.
Follow the good hair. So you mentioned Robert Kelly seeing as an alligator. What's the story there, Jason?
So just go to Lafayette Comedy's Instagram. It's pinned at the top. But we had him here for a weekend, and so we wanted to. Last time he was here, he didn't think he could see an alligator. He's like, "You can't show me an alligator." I'm like, "I put you an alligator in 5 minutes," because our local university has like a pond, a little swamp in the middle of it, so you can go see the alligators and all that. So this time he wanted to see more, so we drove about 40 minutes to a place called Avery Island, and it's where they make Tabasco, like the world famous Tabasco. So it's Tabasco, it's a salt mine, and it's also a bird sanctuary. And so we went out there.
Tabasco, salt mine, and bird sanctuary. Interesting. Trio.
Yeah, all in one spot. Yeah, and so we went out there. We were hanging out. We're going to record a podcast, but he wants the alligator, so we were looking, and then we just got too close to an alligator, and it snapped at him, and he took off running. And it was the greatest moment of my life, because it was so funny just to watch Robert Kelly run about 40 yards. And then we finished the tour, and we did the whole Tabasco tour, let him see that, ate at the restaurant, and recorded a podcast out there in the wilderness. So so it was great.
So he had a good time. And for people who are unfamiliar with Robert Kelly, I mean, it's hard to say he's like underrated, because he's had a 30-year career, and but I think he's underrated. Like,
Yeah.
can you describe for folks who maybe haven't seen him, and you should, if you haven't, you should see Robert Kelly. What what was he like in Lafayette?
Well, this is the second time we've had him. So this we've done 2 weekends before. We did one a little less than 2 years ago. I mean, he is, and we've got both Robert Kellys. We had really fat Robert Kelly, and now we've got 130-pound skinnier Robert Kelly. I mean, he's
wow.
Yeah. He's totally different. Like, he's still bald. He ain't getting that hair back, but
losing weight didn't regrow his hair. Interesting.
Yeah, did not. But no, he's a beast. I mean, like, all the comics who saw him, they're like, we haven't seen anyone kill this hard. And no matter what it is, he just comes out and he hits it hard. And he's got his podcast, You Know What Dude, and he just became co-host of the Bonfire. He took over Dan Soder's spot. So
that's right.
Yeah. So Robert,
congrats.
Yeah. So Robert and Big J are now the co-host of that. And so, and he just put out his new special, produced and recorded by Louis C.K. It's called Killbox, and he's great, man. He's great.
Yeah, he's funny, and I think a lot of the best entertainers kind of wear their demons on their sleeve. You know, he's not one who tries to just show the best side of himself. And I remember, I'd seen him a number of times, and then I interviewed him when we were doing research for a Greg Giraldo comedian story, shameless plug. Yeah. And I forgot how thoughtful he was. You know, like, it was one of those interviews. I knew I wanted to interview him. I didn't know exactly why, but he had so many insights on sobriety, staying sober.
Yeah, he's been sober since he was like 15 or something, like as a kid. Yeah, because he had a rough childhood, and but the irony in that is that almost 2 years ago, I started smoking cigars, and it was because of him, because he was here, and I was like, hey, I want to smoke a cigar. So I hit up another comedian. They're like, buy this. This is his favorite. And then I tell Robert Kelly, I was like, my wife hates you, but she likes you, you know, because now it's my thing.
You might get throat cancer, but you're probably not going to hallucinate or anything.
Yeah, it won't be lung cancer. I'm not inhaling. So
no. So yeah. you needed Robert Kelly's approval to smoke cigars. Like, what?
I just like, hey, I've never smoked one, you know. So I hit up Joe List, and I was like, hey, what does Robert like to smoke? He told me. And then that weekend, I went from like never smoking a cigar to like smoking all the cigars. And then, yeah, it's continued since then. So,
well, congratulations. And I want to talk more about your show, but you have an authenticity, you know, in your Louisiana dumb. Where did you grow up? What was life like for young Jason?
Young Jason. Still had this hair. No, I grew up an hour from here, so actually in between Lafayette and New Orleans, but further south, a place called Morgan City. It's like 20 minutes from the Gulf. And I grew up mostly in a little place called Stevensville. So I was like stereotypical Louisiana person. Like, I had a bayou, I had a dog, a cat, an alligator, a duck. You know, my friends were getting bikes, and I was getting three-wheelers then. You know, just get in a boat and spend the whole day in a boat, and, you know, fish and everything. And yeah, so I just kind of grew up there, and spent. And as soon as I turned 18, moved here, and that was it. But been in Louisiana all my life.
Very cool. So you kind of glossed over, I had an alligator. Was it a pet? Was it food? Does it have a name? Like, do tell, Jason.
Eventually, they're food. No, I never named my alligators. You get them as like little babies. You know, they hatch, and then you keep them for a little bit, and they're fine. And then it's just when they get a little bigger, then you just release them. So you know, because they got all them teeth. But I never named my alligator, but I named my duck. So that was it. So
okay. Well, we're lucky to have you here, because I have a friend who grew up in Florida who I'm sure is listening to this. His name's Eric. He's deathly afraid of gators.
Yeah.
It's so much so that even when he was a kid, like, he didn't want to go in swimming pools for fear that when you meet, what advice can you give to our good friend Eric, who might be listening, Jason? Help get over his fear.
No, stay afraid. Stay afraid. Alligators are very tolerable if you fry them with a little cocktail sauce. You know, I've got some. I actually got some left over from Saturday night there in the fridge,
Nice.
so I'll probably eat that tonight.
So stay afraid. Do you have all your toes, Jason?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Like, yeah, we're good. Yeah. And like, I used to swim in, bayous where it was, you wouldn't know what's in there until it was on you. So you'll be swimming and you see like a certain pattern of bubbles and you're like, that's either a turtle or an alligator. And then it's up to you to go from there.
To explore further. So yeah, one is pretty innocuous and one can kill you, right? So how can you tell by bubbles?
Just the volume. Like, because they, they're underwater and they breathe out. So you see a few bubbles, you're like, it's probably a turtle. And if you see some good amount, then you're like, oh, okay, let's see what happens.
So do you have any friends or enemies that have been on the wrong side of a gator attack?
Yeah, actually, my father-in-law's friend, a couple of years ago, they were fishing deep south in that area, and he was washing his hands after he caught a fish. They were in the boat. And he was just washing, and then a gator came up and attached to his arm, and he was able to get it off. But he had to go to the hospital, and like tons of bacteria, in their mouth. So he had to get a bunch of injections and everything, and yeah. So
how's his arm?
He's okay. I mean, he's got some cool.
Okay.
He's got some cool scars. I'll do it for the story. That's all I'm saying. Because like I fish on my kayak, and so like I've had them like come right up, or you go down like a little cut, and then like they're there.
Mm-hmm.
Really they won't mess with you unless you're pulling in a fish and it's too like distressed, and then like easy food. So yeah. Other than that, you just paddle away. Yeah,
you'll just paddle away. I like that. Well. We connected, and I've worked with lots of comedians, but very few have been as immediately cool as you were to me. I didn't really know you at all. I think we had mutual friends or something like that, but I don't want to over extrapolate. Is that a Louisiana thing? Were you just raised well? Like what? Why are you so nice to people, Jason? Is what I'm trying to get at.
I think I'm a good person. I hope. I'm. I would hope. I don't know. I mean, I'm tolerable. I'm non-confrontational. It takes a lot to make me mad, but I mean, just usually. I don't know. It's usually I get a lot of emails from people, and usually just some words just turn me off, or the punctuation or whatever. And I don't know. Maybe you caught me on a good day. So
maybe my grammar was on point. Well,
yeah,
I think it was. I had done a tour to promote the Greg Giraldo book. I think that's kind of what got us connected, and we never really got to do it. So hopefully in the near future we can, we'll meet in person. But what did you remember most about Greg Giraldo, and if anything, and what impact did he have on your comedy?
Man, like, you want to talk about fearless, I guess, and ruthless. Like, I remember the things that stick out the most are like the roast. Those are really big, but just his stand up and like his special. And I remember the guy, that's sleeping in the front on one of those specials, and it just like
the Jamaican dude.
Yeah. Why you asleep, man? Yeah. I just, listening to his album, he was just fearless. He's just like this clean cut dude. He had some tattoos, but you could tell he was really smart, attorney, just like it just one of those guys that just kind of sticks out, and he was just so good. That's the thing, you can't deny it. So.
Yeah, and I it's funny you mentioned the tattoos. Those just scream midlife crisis, but God love him anyway. And I agree with you, Jason. Like, he's so good. What do you think? Because you've seen a lot of comedians. You're one yourself. What do you think made him so good, in your opinion?
I think it's that overall package, that style, the look, the attitude. He's kind of an ass, but in a funny way. And I don't know. It's just, I don't know. It's that overall package,
Yeah. It's like at his core, he was a sensitive guy, but he kind of tried to come off as tough, but it was clear he was a good guy underneath it. And I think that was kind of endearing. So
yeah, totally.
obviously you're doing great things in Lafayette, but it didn't just start that way. When did you get the comedy bug, Jason?
Well, I've always been a stand-up like fan since a kid. Like my parents didn't PG anything I watched, so I would watch from movies to stand-up to whatever. I absorbed it all. Even elementary, middle school, I would get home, I would watch things. Like even like MTV had their own comedy hour. We didn't even have Comedy Central where I grew up.
MTV had that. I forget what it was called, but it was like 5 minutes, or they'd like show clips.
Yeah, and they had some other things, and then like things like The State and Kids in the Hall, like anywhere I can absorb any of that stuff. And I just always liked comedy albums. But I never knew, and then when I was in college here, I played music for 14 years. I never knew you could just do comedy. Just so happened, like I was kind of like at the teeter on the edge of like not want to play music anymore, and somehow met some people from New Orleans who did comedy, and I was booking for this bar and started bringing them in like a monthly Wednesday show. I didn't even go to it because I had band practice. And then they did an open mic one night, and that was it, But I mean, the whole time I would play music, I'd go play out of town, and I wouldn't want to listen to music on the way home. I just listened to comedy over and over. Mitch Hedberg, Dave Attell, on repeat, and then so many other people. And then I think it was like 2014-ish, maybe, started doing it. But, we had one mic a week here. So I always say like a New York, 1 year in New York is like 7 here, because of the amount of shows. But I knew right away that once I remember coming home and I was like, I did open mic last night. My wife was like, shit. And then, cause she knows that, here we go. And then I knew right away that if I wanted to keep doing it and to grow the scene, to grow fans like for comedy shows, and just to get new comedians, I would have to step it up. And so I decided to all right, well, let's try to bring in some big comedians. So February 2015, our first show was Tom Segura. And I was a big fan of this is before Completely Normal blew up on Netflix. So he had his first 2 albums, and that album had actually just came out, but he was selling like the CD and DVDs. It wasn't even popping on Netflix. And we knew we needed like 77 tickets to break even. And then we sold out we sold 100, and we're like, all right, let's add some more. So then we cleared out some more room in the venue, and we added 25. This is all like pre-planning. And then we're like, then I was like, look, what can we do? And so the owner, who's a friend of mine, was like, let's pull out. So we pulled out everything, like pool tables, you name it. The only thing was like the stage and the bar, and then chairs. And we put like 175 people through there, and sold out our first show with Tom Segura, and then he became who he is today. I think it's because of us, but
I disagree a little bit, because it might be, but let's
let's pretend. So
I ran a show in LA from 2006 to 2012, and Segura would do it regularly. I mean, it was kind of before he like blew up. And it was funny because in 2012 I became a dad, and I just stopped. Like, I mean, I had a Twitter account, but I for like a year or so, I just kind of stopped. And then like he did a show in where was it, in the Bay Area, San Jose Improv, and I got to open for him. And like,
nice.
I had no idea, like, and I knew him for years, but like, and that and he sold it out, and he's like, do you want to open for me? I was like, yeah, I do. And like the night before, Joe Rogan was there, and like it was like the first time I really experienced someone I kind of knew before they made it, and I didn't even know he made it, and he didn't change at all. And then like I see him now, and it's like now I'm just pissed because he's too successful. No,
yeah.
But one thing, and I want to get your opinion on his show, but one thing that stuck out about Segura is he would do he'd work on material at my show at Red Rock, and his batting average was like, and not like 100%, but like so much of his stuff hit. Like he just had this knack. I mean, not to say he didn't have a few jokes he didn't keep, but like, I don't know what it was, but he just has this ability to write. And when he writes, so much of it's good. It's not a huge surprise. He's so prolific. But what say you, Jason?
Yeah, no, I mean, he's, I've seen him a couple times live after that, and watch the specials and everything. I'm it just flawless. But I mean, I guess that's what you need to be when you're someone at that level, And of course, he's got so many fans, and anything he does, they could go along with it. But take that out the thing, it's really funny. Like it's. I saw him maybe like 6 to 8 months ago, and it was amazing. So.
Well, I'm impressed that you went from doing an open mic to having the show. What was your process? Because I mean, at that time, Segura was a big name. I mean, what was your pitch? Like, how did you reach him, and how did you convince him to perform?
I forget how. I think I saw he was doing a show in Mississippi, and I think I saw that, and I was like, all right, like I know how to do the business part of it. So I hit up his agent. Her name's Marianne Ways. She used to work with Gersh, and she's out of New York. And I was like, hey, were you interested? And she kind of walked me through, and it was like, all right, let's do this. And it was pretty standard, this amount versus 75%, and like I don't think we even got him a hotel. It was just very simple. And like, all right, what's tickets? And then boom, and we were just, we were tickled pink, and like, oh, also we got to open for him, so
Sure.
yeah. And then after that kind of broke it. I tell people it's like
right. Sorry, can you pause? Someone's at the door.
Yeah.
It's wine. Wait, hold on. Come in. Oh, thank you. Yeah. All right, priorities, Jason. That was a UPS guy who had a box of wine that I needed to sign for. So
I mean, okay,
my weekend is set. So.
What kind of wine was it?
It's from Fest Parker. It's a place during the pandemic. It was like I think it was my wife and I's anniversary. It was like the first place we got to go without kids. You can sort of exhale a little bit. And so therefore anything from there just tastes amazing. I'm no huge wine connoisseur, but it was the first weekend we had to ourselves in like 2 years or whatever it was. And
nice.
So there's a story there. So,
I got it.
we were talking about getting Segura at your show, and then you didn't just stop there though. Like I was looking at some of the lineup, like obviously you have Robert Kelly, Rory Scovel's coming, Rich Voss.
That first year we did shows. I mean, we had Bergazzi, Sean Patton, Sashir Zamata. I mean, we had so many killer comedians, and it was just like once we got that first one done, the agent was like, all right, here we go, you're interested in this person, you're interested in this person, and we just kind of started from there. And then it started spreading where like, hey, this, because I mean in Louisiana there's no comedy clubs. They used to be like a Laugh Stop or Funny Bone. It was a Funny Bone in Baton Rouge and Shreveport. Those closed way before I started. There's no real comedy club. So but the only time people would come would be to unless you're selling out an arena or a big theater, you're only, you're going to New Orleans. So then I used to pay a lot more to get people here because they didn't know what, no one knows what Lafayette was. It was always New Orleans. And then like people would go do shows over there because they could plan a vacation around it. So, I mean, we got Bergazzi because he was going to New Orleans. I think his brother or someone's was getting married. So he's like, why not add a night before? And then, so after that, once that started rolling, then it started people reached out directly, and it's just, I would wake up and I'd see an email from a comedian I love, like, hey, I heard you do shows. Can I come down? And I'm like, let me nerd out for a second and then we'll get to business,
time out. Let me.
Yeah. And I'm just like, or I've had times where I just walk away from my phone. Like, I can't believe that just happened. And then it just started like that. And then now it's finally, well, I would say pre-COVID, it shifted. So now people are coming here that are not touching anywhere else in the state. So like Robert Kelly's been here twice. He hasn't done anywhere else. We had Shane Gillis, Miss Pat. They're not doing anywhere else. It's just people are coming here. So that was really, it took a while, but now it's kind of, Lafayette's a major stop for these people. And plus we connect them to Houston and all that. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's Louisiana is such a fun place. And earlier I interviewed a friend, Brad Stewart, may he rest in peace. He ran a show. He passed away recently, but he ran a show in Nebraska, and it was similar to what, it kind of reminded me of what you're doing. Like he knew people in LA and New York, and they just had a blast when they went there. It's like you kind of forget in Los Angeles, there's 5 clubs in like a 5-mile radius, more or less.
Yeah,
in New York, there's a ton, but it's, selfishly, I think it's more fun to perform in places like that, where it's like you're the main event.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a New York or LA comedian, most of your spots are the clubs, and everyone's going up, and you're making $50, $75 a spot, but you're only doing 10-15 minutes. So if you're preparing for a special, you want to kind of get out and test it to everyone you can, and plus you're going to make good money. So I mean, we've had, I remember we've had Mark Norman so many times, but he was like, I come here one night and I make more money than I do a whole weekend at a comedy club, because they get like a flat thing, maybe some bonuses. But we're like, no, everyone's here to see you. These are my expenses. Everything's driven by ticket sales. And that's the thing, we don't, the room I use a few different rooms, but my main room I use is in the DoubleTree Hotel. And everyone's like, is it a ballroom? I'm like, it's not. It's a old club that we made a comedy club informally. All they had was Latin dance night or something like that. But I mean, we've tweaked it, make it our own, sellouts at 300. And like, I always say, like, I'm gonna have new business cards and say Lafayette Comedy on one side, and the other side says Todd Barry likes this room. And that's like that's the greatest thing I could ever imagine, is that, he doesn't complain about it. I'm like, all right, so.
The top endorsement, Todd Barry likes this room. That's impressive. So from where it started to where it is today, Jason, what are some of the biggest changes of the show?
I mean, just the overall, the reach of the audience too. And the shift of the comedy world with podcasts has really, changed that too. And you get more people reaching out, and I see like that fan base, but it's just building up. It's just building, keeping consistent shows. And I mean, the change, it's just, I use different rooms, and once this room, we got this under wraps, and I know everything about this room, what looks good, how to do lights, how to do the sound. And just, we're trying to book comedians, and just like when I send offer sheets, make sure everything's knocked out, this, and then there's nothing to argue about other than, all right, do they want to do the show? So, yeah.
You get right to it. And how has producing impacted your own stand-up?
So, all right. So Lafayette Comedy is just me. Like, it's just me running it. So all my shows, I would say 99.9% of the shows, I do everything other than work the door. Usually I can get someone to work the door, local comedian, even pay them. And then, they get to watch the headliner once they get on stage and all that. It's hard because a lot of times I'm running around so much that I'm just making sure this is good. And I'm like, okay, it's time to start a show. And I'm like, I haven't even prepared a set. So a lot of times, a lot of my jokes, a lot of my first times running bits are at these big shows, and it has its advantages and disadvantages.
Oh yeah, that's ballsy. Go ahead.
Yeah. Cause we had, Kyle Kinane, and we had a lot of local comedians at the show, cause, Kinane, and I did a brand new bit. It was like 5 minutes. And I remember watching comedians in the front, like looking at each other, like, we don't know this bit, and I'm like, all right, so I'm either going to sink or swim, but that puts the pressure on me to like roll out new bits. And luckily I've been successful on those. I haven't ate too much poop on those, but So sometimes I feel like I'm not prepared enough for the show. Like I need to really, but I get in my head and I'm worried about this. Or we did, we had Robert this weekend, and I had the Saturday night show. There was two, how can I say this, meth heads in the front, and they wouldn't stop talking like from the intro, and she was yelling out. I'm like, what are you yelling? Like I'm saying, hello, how you doing? And she's calling out some other comedian's name, and like it's rarely I have to. I would say like maybe twice I remember having to stop a bit to say, hey, you need to be quiet. And then that throws everything off, throws my momentum off, throws me as hosting, because there's no one else that's, running the show with me. So if I want to kick them out, I have to wait till I get off stage and then, walk them out or whatever. So it's harder. I need to start releasing the reins, let other people host, for me. Yeah. But I mean, I've just got everything down where I know what works. And plus, for local comedians too, it's like you're opening for this comedian, you're featuring for them or whatever, so I just need to start passing that hosting torch, and then I've had a lot of like comedians go, hey, you need to start, featuring on your own show sometimes rather than hosting. So
yeah, I mean, that's a challenge. As mentioned, when I ran shows, it was, I think it's harder to run them than perform, because like the performance is almost an afterthought, because you want to like, are all the people going to be here? Is so-and-so going to show up? Will the lighting be okay? Like there's so many variables to consider. When you're performing, that's almost the easy part. And so like,
exactly.
Yeah. If you can branch out, I mean, keep your show because it kicks ass, but like, if you can, yeah, just do yourself the favor and just perform elsewhere sometimes. Come to California. I'll put you up. I mean, just it'll be so easy for you, I think.
Well, the other thing too is that, like, if the show's not selling well, sometimes I'm out there and I'm like, I'm losing money, just in my head, like, oh, this is going to set me back, or whatever. So,
So you have to rent it out, I assume, and then there's like a nut you have to a bogey or whatever you have to go past.
Yeah, because my main thing is, like, for me, is focusing on like the guarantee for the comedian. A lot of them is guarantee versus percentage of the door, because like I don't get any part of bar sales, food or drinks. Oh, okay. So my sales are just driven by ticket sales, and I don't paper the room. I don't give out tickets, because what's the incentive? Like, yeah, it can make the bar more sales, more money, but then I'm getting people who are just like, oh, it's comedy, and then boom. So it's not like a comedy club aspect, but at the same sense, having that approach, the people who are there are coming because of comedy. And so like a slow show for us may be 100+ people. Even some of our local shows, we just sold, last month we had a show and we sold like almost 140 advanced tickets on a show that's all local comedians. You don't know who they are, so it's building that momentum. So that keeps me from having to, get people who don't know comedy. Because if you're coming to a show, I would say 95% of those people are there because they know that comedian. They're going to see it. Some people take a chance, but it just took a long time to really focus on what audience am I targeting, and I'm targeting fans of comedy who know this comedian.
That's smart, and it sounds like, I mean, you've created a brand. And you've put a lot of legwork in, Jason. So if you're not there already,
I don't know what brand you're talking about.
Wow, look at this.
Yeah, we have so many koozies in the state. If you get married, you have to have a koozie. So
it's the rule. But I think it'll be at the point where the brand will market itself. So it's like you're working hard, and then not that you want to take your foot off the gas, but at some point people realize, all right, Jason does cool shows. Let's go to it, and then the dynamics shift a little bit. It's almost like the Laugh Factory or the Comedy Cellar in this sense. Like that is the draw, and they trust that you'll have the quality control to bring in good comics. I'm curious, now that you've had a few years under your belt, both performing and running it, what are some of the biggest lessons you've learned?
I mean, early on I learned to book. It's not booking comedians because I've done that. Like, I've booked people I really like, but they weren't big. I mean, at 2015 we booked Bergazzi, and we had maybe 40 something people. And I'm like, I was pissed, but I was like, oh, he wasn't who he is at this. I mean, it was a week after his second Tonight Show appearance. And I thought like, oh man, this would be great. Yeah. And you start seeing the trends and everything, but people that know who he was. But I mean, it was still amazing. So I learned that, sometimes I'm booking selfishly because it's people I want to see. So that was a big thing. And it's just the overall structure of a show and making it work, and just all the ins and outs that it just takes experience to do. And then setting up the show, making it feel, from intro music just to playing music before the show. And I mean, I don't even have the mixer of this venue is on the stage in a closet. So it's like, I don't have anyone, there's no God mic to introduce me. So I got a friend, I gave him a couple of cigars. He recorded an intro. I play on my iPad, and it's so stupid. I hate the sound of it, but it's his big radio voice introducing me, and then he exaggerates my last name, and he still hasn't re-recorded it for me. But those things really changed, because I used to just go in the closet, turn down the music, and then walk out the closet, dry. So now just, got the other things set, everything's where I just go right on stage and roll it. So just those little ins and outs, and knowing how to set up the room, making it the best. And then now I'm at a point where I just gotta I invested in a nice video camera. So now, like, you're coming through, hey, I'm recording your set in 4K. I just expanded my audio, so I'm like, hey, I'm not giving you a special, but I'm giving you something you can take around, cut up, and there you go. Now you've got TikTok and Instagram clips, which is what every comic is putting out today. So
it's just that and crowd work, and if you have Instagram crowd work, you're gold.
Yeah, that's included, but that's a great feature too, because, that's one is good for my local comedians, because you get a good 4K tape with good audio in front of, 200-300 people. But also, it's given that headliner or something they can use later on. So,
well, you've got some, you're multi-talented, and you're not just a producer. Now you're expanding to video.
I'm about to expand into some external hard drives. That's what I was looking up before we got on, because I'm out of space on my Mac. So it's like, if I download a text file, I'll probably blow it up. But send it
to the cloud. Dropbox is good.
That's already full.
Okay. Fair enough.
2 terabytes.
How do you want to evolve the show or progress it? Like, if we're talking in, call it 5 years, what do you want? What's your vision for the future of your show, or you?
Oh man, I mean, everyone keeps pushing to me a comedy club, and that, it would be great, because here's the thing: is like, using the venues, I'm at the mercy of their schedule, and so this, my main venue that I use, the Club 337, which is in Doubletree, I can do shows there, but if they have a big convention, there's less parking and this stuff. So, sometimes I have to ping pong on dates to see what works. So if I had my own place, that would be great, but you got to worry about so much more. So right now, what's happening is I'm expanding to other cities. So like tomorrow night, I got Joe DeRosa. So we're doing a show in Baton Rouge, then he comes here, then we go to New Orleans. And so, like producing in different places, expanding. We just started a amazing show at an amazing venue called the Acadiana Center for the Arts. We just had Shane Torres last week, and it looks like a Apple store. I mean, it's so nice, multi-million-dollar theater, beautiful venue. And so we started doing shows there. So that's cool too. And with that, that all I have to worry about is hosting that show, like booking and everything, but I don't have to set up chairs. I don't have to run sounds and lights, I mean, it's really nice. So I'm okay with that evolution of it. So now it's like here, now Baton Rouge, picking up some other little places, and, I don't know. I don't think I'll ever get to a comedy club, because I don't know if this city can support one. I don't know if, and that's the reason New Orleans never had one, because it's not, and New Orleans is weird for comedy because it's such a party, town. Yeah. So unless you're doing small bar shows, the only way the shows that are popping are like, 600, 1,000, 2,000 seat theaters, so it's kind of hard to do that even there. So.
And there's so much like fixed cost to having your own club. This way you can move it around. You have more flexibility. But I want to get your take, Jason, and we're wrapping up. But you're a student of comedy, you've produced it, you're a comedian yourself. What are you most optimistic about when it comes to comedy?
I mean, I hope there's no boom, like bust. I mean, we're in a boom, and I think it's getting easier and easier to find it, to enjoy it. It's getting a little out of hand with all the different mediums that you can use, but that's just the nature of the beast. I just hope there's no bust here, or anywhere, I mean, but everyone's everywhere you look, it's from podcasts to specials, wherever it's rolling. It's kind of like it was back in the day. Yeah, that's my main thing. As long as it's the trends moving, I'm okay. If there's a bust, and then what do small towns like us do?
You hunt gators, so
We hunt gators. Yeah,
we want to prevent having a bust because you're doing great things, Jason. So we're to the hundreds of millions of people listening right now, where can we send them? How can they learn more about you, your shows, the cool stuff you're up to?
Yeah, so LafayetteComedy.com is where we're at. Lafayette Comedy on all social media. I'm on the JP Leonard. That's my social thing. So yeah, I mean, if you come to New Orleans or anywhere in the state, I don't know why you would go anywhere else, but if you want to see a show, look us up, come down. I mean, it's a fun little excursion. You can go see some alligator, eat some boudin, and whatever, then drive away and continue your tour.
Sounds like a plan. Well, we'll definitely link to all those places. And Jason Leonard, thank you so much for joining us today. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. Appreciate it, man.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Matt Balaker podcast. To learn more, please check out mattbalaker.com and encourage your friends to like, subscribe, and share. Really appreciate it.